Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world with me, Deepika, coming up in the next 1 hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Washington, D.C. for bilateral meeting with President Trump. Technology, trade, defense, energy, supply chain resilience and global security challenges on agenda of the meeting. U.S. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard calls on Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the U.S. Both reaffirm commitment to secure, stable and rule-based international order. With peace on agenda, Trump calls Putin and Zelenskyy, says negotiations to end Ukraine conflict will start immediately. And world celebrates Radio Day. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi extends best wishes, calls it a powerful medium. A very good afternoon to all our viewers joining us at this afternoon broadcast on DD India News Hour. Let's begin with the top news of the hour. Well, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on a two-day visit to the United States. And this is Prime Minister Narendra Modi's first visit to the United States after President Donald Trump assumed office for his second term. Well, this is the second leg of his two-nation visit. This also marks his first visit to the US since Donald Trump's second term inauguration. The visit aims at strengthening India-US relationship, focusing on key areas such as technology, trade, defense, energy, supply chain resilience and global security challenges, highlighting the depth of the bilateral partnership. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is staying at the Blair House, which is the historic guest house lodging for dignitaries visiting the White House. During his 36-hour stay in the US, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is scheduled to hold bilateral meetings with President Trump. Well, this is Prime Minister Narendra Modi's first bilateral visit to the US since Trump was sworn in for his second term and places him among the select few foreign leaders visiting Washington within weeks of the new administration's inauguration. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the fourth foreign leader to meet Donald Trump in the White House in less than a month after he took office for his second term. He will also meet several members of Trump's cabinet, as well as US business leaders and members of the Indian American community. Prime Minister Narendra Modi received a warm welcome from the Indian diaspora. Members of the Indian community waited at the hotel to have a glimpse of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Braving the chilly winter, members of the Indian community gathered outside the hotel, chanting Modi, Modi and waving Indian flags to greet him. Prime Minister also reciprocated, waving his hand to the people and talking to the members of the Indian community.
अनुभव जो है बहुत ही अच्छा रहा। ये कहें कि विश्व का सब कुछ मिल गया। मोदी जी ने हमें आशीर्वाद दिया और भारत के प्रधानमंत्री जो कि इतने सुलझे हुए, इतने पहुंचे हुए, इतने कर्मठ इंसान हैं, जो लाखों करोड़ों भारतवासियों की दिन रात सेवा कर रहे हैं, ऐसे महापुरुष का आशीर्वाद पाकर जीवन धन्य हो गया।
बहुत अच्छा लगा, मोदी जी से हाथ मिलाया, मोदी जी ने बहुत खुश हो गया देख के मोदी जी को।
बहुत बढ़िया है, हमें उससे मिलकर बहुत खुशी हुई। इतना थक गए थे तो भी उसने टाइम निकाला और सब लोगों से मिले और अच्छी तरह से बात की और हमारे कंसर्न सुने और बहुत अच्छा लगा हमें।
We were waiting for him, so we got to see him very close. So I really am liking it. Like seeing him so close, it is really nice.
It's all worth it. Like 5 hours we are standing in this weather. It's freaking cold and you're freezing, but it's all worth it. Just one glance of him and he's so nice. Like, you know, we just love him.
The US Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, called on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Well, Prime Minister Modi fondly recalled his earlier interactions with Tulsi Gabbard. The discussions touched on enhancing bilateral intelligence cooperation, particularly in counter-terrorism, cybersecurity, emerging threats and strategic intelligence sharing. They also exchanged views on regional and global development of mutual interest, reaffirming their commitment to a secure, stable and rule-based international order. Well, Tulsi Gabbard was sworn in as the top US spy on Wednesday, with Republican support behind a nominee once considered one of President Donald Trump's most controversial picks. We have more details in this report. Take a look.
Do solemnly swear. I, Tulsi Gabbard, do solemnly swear.
Tulsi Gabbard was sworn in as the top US spy on Wednesday. At the swearing-in ceremony, US President Donald Trump praised Gabbard and also entrusted her with overseeing urgently needed reforms to the US intelligence community to protect the rights and the civil liberties of all Americans.
Faith and allegiance to the same.
Tulsi Gabbard's an American of extraordinary courage and exceptional patriotism. She's devoted her entire life to public service, and I've watched her for years on different shows and everything. I said, she's a woman of great common sense, and, you know, we like the common sense.
In response, Gabbard expressed her commitment to focus on ensuring the safety, security, and freedom of the American people.
So I look forward to being able to help fulfill that mandate that the American people delivered to you very clearly in this election, to refocus our intelligence community by empowering the great patriots who have chosen to serve our country in this way, and focus on ensuring the safety, security, and freedom of the American people.
Tulsi Gabbard left the Democratic Party in 2022 to become an independent before finally backing Donald Trump and joining the Republican Party in 2024. She has served 4 terms in the House of Representatives. She will now lead an agency established after September 11, 2001 terror attacks to coordinate US's intelligence operations, one of the most critical national security roles in the US government. Earlier, the Republican-controlled US Senate confirmed Tulsi Gabbard as Trump's choice to lead the country's intelligence services. Gabbard scraped through a 52-48 floor vote. Gabbard had looked vulnerable, but 3 Republican holdouts finally ended up lying behind her. Bureau Report, TD India.
As India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Washington to meet President Donald Trump, TD India's Amritpal Singh has sent us this report on what is on the table when the two leaders meet.
When the two leaders meet at the White House, they would be looking at trade, investment, economy, defense ties, energy partnership, security partnership, the strategic partnership, the comprehensive global strategic partnership with a focus on the Indo-Pacific. As you know, India is hosting the Quad Leaders Summit this year, that would be key on the agenda. Immigration would be key on the agenda. There are issues on which there are convergences, so the effort would be to build on those convergences. On issues where there are divergences or which require realignment or reset or readjustment, say issues like tariffs, the two sides would openly talk about that. The White House press secretary made a statement saying that reciprocal tariffs could be invoked by Donald Trump on countries, though she did not name the countries. Of course, there are concerns in India about it, though India has not been named right now, but there are concerns. So I think the two leaders will be openly talking about that.
Amritpal Singh also talked about on what Prime Minister Narendra Modi's engagement looks like apart from his meeting with the US President. Take a listen.
His first bilateral meeting was with Tulsi Gabbard, who just got confirmed as the Director of National Intelligence, though Tulsi Gabbard has been an India supporter all through. Of course, the issue of illegal migration would have figured in the talks between the two sides, between Prime Minister Modi and Tulsi Gabbard, and his other meetings you mentioned, Elon Musk, though there is no official confirmation as of now, but yes, apart from the Dodge chief, he's also a business leader. The other meetings could be with cabinet members of Donald Trump's administration, but also, business leaders, where Prime Minister Modi would, convey that India, given its growth story, given the growth opportunities and the business opportunities that India offers, it is in the interest of both countries and businesses from the United States to invest in India and gain or benefit from the opportunities that a growing India offers to the world, and not necessarily at counter purposes. So I think he shall be putting out during his bilateral meetings that the idea should be to explore areas where the two sides can cooperate and not be at cross purposes.
Now, talking about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to France, collective global action on artificial intelligence dominated day 2 of India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's France visit. And day 3 was not just about cultural linkages, but people-to-people connect as well. It focused on strengthening economic and maritime ties with focus on sustainable and limitless clean energy for the future. Take a look.
After a power-packed day 1 in France, Indian Prime Minister and French President yet again scripted history in Marseille. Both the leaders jointly inaugurated the Indian consulate in this vibrant city, marking a new chapter in India-France ties. At the consulate, both the leaders were warmly welcomed by members of the Indian diaspora who had gathered to witness this historic occasion. Both the leaders also visited the Mazark War Cemetery in Marseille and paid tribute to the Indian soldiers who lost their lives during the First and Second World War. Both leaders laid wreaths to honor the sacrifices of the fallen soldiers. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Emmanuel Macron then visited the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor, ITER, in Cadarache. Both leaders appreciated the progress of ITER, including the assembly of the world's largest tokamak, where 500 megawatt of fusion power will be produced. India is among the 7 ITER members contributing to the project over the last 2 decades. Focus was also on strengthening maritime ties. Both leaders visited the control room of CMA CGM, a French shipping and logistics company in Marseille. The two leaders held discussion on future collaboration through the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, which was launched during India's G20 presidency. As Prime Minister Narendra Modi's productive visit to France concludes, he emplained for his visit to the United States, where he will be holding talks with President Donald Trump. Prime Minister Modi was accorded a military farewell in France. In a special gesture, French President Emmanuel Macron came to see off Prime Minister Modi at the airport, showcasing once again a never-ending bond between both the two leaders. Jessica Taneja's report for DD India.
And during his visit to France, Prime Minister Narendra Modi presented a stunning Dokra artwork of musicians adorned with lapis lazuli and coral. This intricate brass and copper piece showcases India's rich tribal heritage and craftsmanship. He also gifted an exquisite silver hand-engraved table mirror with floral and peacock motifs to the First Lady of France, reflecting Rajasthan's mastery in metalwork. For the US Vice President J.D. Vance's children, Prime Minister Narendra Modi brought a thoughtful, handcrafted gift, a wooden railway toy set for younger son Vivek Vance. And a jigsaw puzzle featuring Indian folk paintings for elder son Yvonne Blaine Vance. Along with a wooden alphabet set for daughter Mirabel Rose Vance, all designed to inspire creativity and learning. Time to take a short break, but still to come on DD India News Hour. US President Donald Trump plans to announce reciprocal tariffs on Thursday. South Korea's ousted President Yoon Suk-yeol to face potentially his last impeachment hearing on Thursday. And up next, we'll get you all the update on why North Korea demolished a South Korea-built facility once used for reunions of families separated by the Korean War.
Clean energy is the future for sure. We are still not able to produce enough energy through renewable sources yet. But why is it so, and how can we change that?
We introduced solar-powered streetlights, cutting consumption by 5%. Then I had the government build green homes fitted with solar panels, making us more energy independent.
The panels contain a lot of rare commodities, and you can save a lot of energy if you use recycled materials.
We run off hydro power or wind power, so the electricity we have is sustainable and renewable. So of course that's the most sustainable we can do.
When it transforms and translates into results that is tangible, they can see the difference that it makes to their environment. It's a huge thing.
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Staying in the US. Now, US President Donald Trump plans to announce reciprocal tariffs on every country that charges duties on the US imports. The president has already stunned the markets by announcing tariffs on all steel and aluminium imports beginning the 12th of March. Last week, Donald Trump imposed an additional 10% tariff on Chinese goods, effective the 4th of February, with Chinese countermeasures taking effect this week.
But we'll be signing reciprocal tariffs. The world has taken advantage of the United States for many years. They've charged us massive tariffs that we haven't charged them.
A US judge allowed Donald Trump's administration to carry out its federal worker buyout program as Donald Trump moves to overhaul and downsize the US government, handing a setback to unions trying to stop the plan. The decision could clear the way for the Trump administration to swiftly try to wrap the program up, though the unions could ask another court to halt the program. US President Donald Trump made phone calls to Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy as part of his effort to resolve the Ukraine conflict. Trump directed the officials to begin discussions aiming at ending the conflict, marking a significant step in diplomatic efforts. Here's more.
Donald Trump's calls to both Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy in separate phone calls on Wednesday as efforts to end the Ukraine conflict gained traction. The US president has set the ball rolling as he instructed officials to begin talks on ending the conflict. Trump said Putin wants the war to end and they discussed getting a ceasefire in the not-too-distant future. The Kremlin earlier said Putin and Trump had agreed to meet. Trump said their first meeting would probably take place soon in Saudi Arabia. Trump announced that Secretary of State Marco Rubio, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, and Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff could lead negotiations on ending the war.
And I think we're on the way to getting peace. I think President Putin wants peace, and President Zelenskyy wants peace, and I want peace. I just want to see people stop getting killed.
Trump and Zelenskyy spoke after Trump's call with Putin.
Very substantive negotiations with the United States of America. I had a good, in-depth conversation with President Trump, and I appreciate President's genuine interest in our shared opportunities and how we can bring true peace closer together.
The development followed announcement by U.S. Secretary for Defense Pete Hegseth that Kyiv would have to give up its long-held goals of joining the NATO military alliance and regaining all of its territory seized by Russia.
We want, like you, a sovereign and prosperous Ukraine. But we must start by recognizing that returning to Ukraine's pre-2014 borders is an unrealistic objective. Chasing this illusionary goal will only prolong the war and cause more suffering. That said, the United States does not believe that NATO membership for Ukraine is a realistic outcome of a negotiated settlement.
European powers, including Britain, France and Germany, said on Wednesday they had to be part of any future negotiations on the fate of Ukraine, underscoring that only a fair accord with security guarantees would ensure lasting peace. Rubio and Vice President J.D. Vance will hold talks on Friday in Munich Security Conference. Bureau Report, DD India.
Now, meanwhile, European foreign ministers gathered in Paris for an expanded Weimar Group meeting on Ukraine. The ministers posed for a family photograph with their Ukrainian counterparts on Wednesday. The meeting came amid fresh geopolitical developments as the US president stated he had discussed the Ukraine conflict with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Now, as Germany gears up for national elections, Germans are concerned about the potential negative impact of AI in the campaign. 88% of Germans fear manipulation from foreign actors as they prepare to vote on the 23rd of February. This includes interference through social media disinformation, including deep fakes. And Thomas now joins us with more details on this. Thomas, how widespread is disinformation in this political campaign?
Disinformation is indeed a big problem in this political campaign, and there are different ways in which that disinformation is spreading. On the one hand, false or misleading comments on social media platforms, including deep fakes, so fakes generated with the help of artificial intelligence. But at the same time, one issue that is a big matter of concern for authorities is foreign intervention, so foreign manipulation on social media, something that is known under the acronym of FIMI. And that is something that, as far as German authorities is concerned, is particularly worrying coming from Russia. In the past, German authorities have revealed a whole range of networks that are spreading Russian disinformation, that are discrediting European efforts when it comes to the war in Ukraine. And how that looks like, or what that looks like, is on the one hand media spoofing, so basically sites that look or resemble real newspaper sites, but in reality are fake and are spreading fake articles. It is also with the use of automated bots that are even spreading disinformation 1 second, so one disinformation block per second on a coordinated way, that according to German officials. And this is certainly something that German intelligence agencies are trying to understand. And a separate matter altogether, but related in a way, is the influence of the US in a way. So Elon Musk in particular, who has been spreading also false stories about Germany when it comes to security in the country, when it comes to migration in the country. This is something that German authorities are following very closely to see what kind of impact it has. When it comes to the impact, one issue that has been mentioned is that these kinds of posts are being amplified. So in other words, they're reaching more people than they should do in the first place.
Also, Thomas, how are the authorities reacting to it? And they are preparing to stop this disinformation, especially as the voters cast their ballots. Thomas.
At the European Union level, the main instrument is the so-called Digital Services Act. That is a law that has been in place for some time now at the European Union level, which basically looks for a safe and accountable online environment. And one of its explicit goals is to tackle disinformation. What it basically means is that accounts, and social media platforms are obliged under this Digital Services Act to remove hate speech, to remove disinformation. Big question is to what extent they're doing so. Another aspect is what's being done at a national level here in Germany, especially Germany's intelligence agency, especially there. The domestic intelligence agency is focusing on this issue of foreign intervention or interference, not foreign intervention, foreign interference when it comes, for example, to Russia. They're looking very closely at these automated bots and trying to understand the network and where it actually begins. Basically, who is creating this false information and what kind of impact they want. So these are the two main elements that we're seeing now when it comes to the reaction from authorities at a German level and at a European level as well.
All right, thank you so much, Thomas, for joining us and bringing us the latest on this. Now, South Korea's ousted President Yoon Suk-yeol faces potentially his last impeachment hearing on Thursday over his failed martial law bid. The Constitutional Court held oral arguments in impeached President Yoon's trial on whether to oust him or restore his powers. 3 witnesses, including the National Intelligence Service Director Cho Tae-yong, are expected to attend Thursday's hearing. The court began the trial on the 27th of December last year to review an impeachment motion that accused Yoon of violating his constitutional duty by imposing martial law with no justifiable grounds. The prosecutors have separately indicted Yoon on charges of leading an insurrection. He was arrested last month and is being held at a detention center currently. Now, North Korea is demolishing a South Korean-built facility once used for reunions of families separated by the Korean War, further erasing symbols of past engagement between the two nations. South Korea has strongly condemned the move, calling it an anti-humanitarian act that tramples on the wishes of separated families. Seoul is considering legal measures and a joint response with the international community against Pyongyang. Now, this comes after North Korea blew up sections of inter-Korean roads and rail lines last year, prompting South Korea's military to fire warning shots in response. Now, the government of Australia expressed its strong concern over a face-off with a Chinese jet in South China Sea to the Chinese government. The Australian Air Force plane was conducting a routine surveillance near the disputed waters when a Chinese fighter jet appeared and released flares in close proximity to the Australian Poseidon surveillance plane. Australian authorities rebuked Beijing in a strong tone regarding the unsafe and unprofessional interaction with People's Liberation Army Air Force aircraft. The recent incident is the latest in a series of face-offs between the two countries over the disputed airspace and shipping lanes. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the globe in brief. At least 5 people were reported dead, while 7 others were injured in a suspected gas explosion in a departmental store in Taiwan. The blast occurred at the 12th floor of the building, which was closed due to the ongoing construction work. Directed by Scott Derrickson, Hollywood sci-fi thriller The Gorge is set to release on Friday. The film tells the story of 2 snipers who each guarded one side of a mysterious gorge. Not much is known about the gorge other than nothing must be allowed to come out of it. Now, a group of archaeologists discovered a buried turret during an excavation work at the ancient city of Tongu Kitumati in Pago region of Myanmar, according to sources from the excavation site. The excavated turret reaches 50 feet in depth and 18 feet outwards towards the city gate. We are heading for a short break, but still to come on DD India News Hour. Up next, we'll get you a detailed discussion on Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the USA. And we will get you all important information on the new income tax bill in the Parliament. Artificial intelligence takes center stage in 3rd episode of Pariksha Pe Charcha.
Prasar Bharati, in collaboration with IIT Delhi and Software Technology Parks of India, is organizing the DD Robocon 2025 this year as well. In this National Robotic Championship, engineering students will get ample opportunities to showcase their ingenuity and potential. The national selection for this championship will be held on the 12th and 13th of July, and the winning team will get an opportunity to participate in the International ABU Robocon Championship to be held in Mongolia in August this year. So, hurry up. The last date of registration is the 16th of February. For more information, log on to www.ddrobocon.iitd.ac.in.
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India News Hour. It's now time to quickly recap the top headlines of the hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Washington, D.C. for bilateral meeting with President Trump. Technology, trade, defense, energy, supply chain resilience and global security challenges on top of the agenda. US Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard calls on Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the US. Both reaffirm commitment to secure, stable and rules-based international order. With peace on agenda, Trump calls Putin and Zelenskyy, says negotiations to end Ukraine conflict will start immediately. And now to get a more rounded and in-depth perspective on India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the USA, I'm joined by former Indian ambassador to the USA, Ma'am Meera Shankar. Good afternoon, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us at DD India News Hour. Now, after a successful visit to France, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in the USA for much-awaited bilateral meeting between the oldest and the largest democracies. How important is this visit from India's point of view, considering that trade and cooperation in defense sector is also there on the agenda, ma'am?
Look, I think it's a very important meeting because it will set the tone for the entire relationship during the second Trump administration. And obviously, it's important for the two countries to see how they can take their strategic partnership forward in a holistic manner. From India's side, I think we would be interested in trade, energy, defense, cooperation, technology, and supply chain resilience. I think these are issues which are of interest to India because, there are still technological regulatory hurdles in the US for sale of high technology chips and also artificial intelligence products to India. So I think this is something we will put on the agenda. And we would like to hear from President Trump how they intend to pursue the policy of de-risking from over-dependence on any one country, and therefore what opportunities for collaboration this opens up for India and the United States. In the defense sector, of course, India has been purchasing weapons from the United States, but also looking at technology collaborations under Make in India. So that is something, again, that we will pursue. And in the energy sector, given that President Trump has completely reversed the policy of the previous government on renewable energy, the focus will be on whether we can purchase more fossil fuel energy from the United States, and also how we can collaborate on small and modular nuclear energy reactors. So this is really the priority as far as India is concerned. And of course, then global security, because there are two world conflicts going on in Europe and in Gaza. And while President Trump has said he will seek to end both conflicts, I think it would be important from our point of view to hear how the US intends to proceed in these two conflicts, because India has always said that with regard to Ukraine, that solutions cannot be found on the battlefield and will have to be sought at the negotiating table. So this is very much in line with the policy that India has been advocating on Ukraine. And then, of course, we would discuss the Indo-Pacific, and I think how the US sees China and its relationship with that country going forward, because this is of interest to all the countries in the Indo-Pacific, including to India. From the US side, there are issues stemming from President Trump's national agenda and policies, which can rub up against other countries, including, his whole stance on illegal immigration, on perhaps legal movement of people, and on trade, particularly tariffs. So we have a full agenda. On immigration, India has already said that as far as illegal immigrants are concerned, we will cooperate in taking back our nationals. Right. But there has been concern expressed in India at the manner in which the first lot of immigrants was repatriated in a military aircraft, in handcuffs and in chains. So I think that is something which we would probably emphasize, that, more discreet, more dignified way of repatriation would make it easier for the country to cooperate. As far as the H-1B visas are concerned and legal movement of people, there is a split among Trump's constituencies. For instance, the MAGA would like to end the program because, and there is an element of racism here, because they say that it leads to the browning of America. But the tech companies, particularly the big tech companies, would certainly want the H-1B visa program to continue, because they have a skills shortage and they depend on many short-term experts from countries around the globe. Not just the Indian companies, but the key US companies. So as of now, President Trump has said he's in favor of continuing the H-1B program, but we have to wait and see whether they toughen the conditionalities and processing of H-1B visas in the future.
Right.
On tariffs, Trump has already imposed tariffs on his large trading partners, Canada, Mexico, 25%, but withheld for a month, and China, 10%, on top of the 10 to 25% imposed on $200 billion worth of imports from China in his first term.
Right.
He's also now imposed tariffs, 25%, on steel and aluminium imports from across the world. This does impact India. We are not exporting so much steel, but aluminium, I think, is a good $400 million or something. So it will impact us. Then there are threats that he may impose reciprocal tariffs on countries. That is, if we have high tariffs in some areas, he will impose high tariffs on us. So I think we have to wait and see where this goes. but India will try to handle it pragmatically. At the same time, we should be ready with with our own areas where we want more US opening, but also where we will dig in our heels and not give in while showing flexibility in other areas. I think
Indeed.
that's important in terms of the negotiations, to have this balance between the ability to hold firm and the ability to show flexibility.
So we have to wait and watch and see that what are the outcomes that we are expecting, because Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Donald Trump are also expected to hold a press conference tonight as per India time. Now, Pam, considering the fact that India is also likely to host the Quad, how do you see the strategic placement of the meeting in the diplomatic time frame?
Look, I don't really know what time frame President Trump will give for the Quad summit, but it should be held in the first quarter of the year, because the last one was held, it was India's turn to host it, but we agreed to gracefully give the slot to America because it was Biden's last year. And so the summit will be held in India this year, but it will have to depend on the calendars also of the other leaders, US, of course, President Trump, and then the Japanese Prime Minister, the Australian Prime Minister. So all the, you finally work out a calendar which coheres with the dates of all the leaders. I think that is still to be done.
All right.
Also, I don't know if there will be any deliverables announced in this summit, because it's at short notice.
Right.
And perhaps there hasn't been enough time for the Trump team, which has just got into place, to really do, detailed preparations for the visit. But there probably will be some kind of joint statement at the end of it, which will lay out the path for the future.
Indeed. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us and bringing us a rounded, in-depth analysis of the current developments which are going on between India and the United States of America. Thank you. Moving on day 9 of India's Parliament budget session, significant developments unfolded in both the houses of the Parliament. In the lower house, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman introduced the Income Tax Bill 2025. The Finance Minister urged Speaker Om Birla to refer Income Tax Bill to Select Committee of Lok Sabha. Meanwhile, the report of the Joint Committee on the Waqf Amendment Bill 2024 was also presented. The proceedings of the Lok Sabha were adjourned till 11 a.m. local time on the 10th of March. While the proceedings in the upper house resumed after it was adjourned briefly on Thursday amid uproar by opposition parties after tabling of the Joint Committee of the Parliament on the Waqf Amendment Bill. Union Minister of Parliamentary Affairs Kiren Rijiju asserted that all opposition MPs actively participated in the report's formulation and that the allegations were baseless. General discussion on the Union Budget 2025-26 is now continuing in the Rajya Sabha. And on the occasion of the birth anniversary of Sarojini Naidu, Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla, Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha Harivansh Narayan Singh and other parliamentarians paid floral tributes at the portrait of Sarojini Naidu in the Central Hall of Samvidhan Sadan in New Delhi, Parliament on Thursday.
About some arrangements, such as this meeting, a dream gathering mandates. It seems this heritage my past is
And now to discuss more on this, I'm joined by DD India correspondent from Parliament, Anil Thomas. Good afternoon, Anil. Now, 6 decades old income tax bill has been now replaced with a new one. Tell us the major highlights of this, along with the development on the Waqf Amendment Bill. Anil.
Well, good afternoon, Devika. Very much on expected lines, the new income tax bill, which gets away with the 6-decade-old bill that exists, has been sent to a select committee now. We'll have to wait and watch in the second half how that particular bill will be presented after it goes to the select committee.
Speaking on the Waqf Board bill, that was presented today in the upper house and then in the lower house.
The opposition has been raising issues that what's the hurry in creating or presenting the bill on the final day of the first half of the budget session. You could have brought it in the second half. But I think certain requests that the opposition have made has been considered by the Speaker, by the Chairman, by also the Parliamentary Affairs Minister. And all those requests, whatever were important, have been considered and have taken. There were few issues with regards to expunging of details of opposition dissent notes, which were raised, but I think the prerogative is with the chairman of the Joint Parliamentary Committee, who decides on what needs to be a part of the final report or what needs to be part of the final bill. So all in all, it's been a bit of a action-packed day in Parliament, especially with regards to the Waqf Amendment Bill and the Waqf Bill that was presented in Parliament, and also with regards to the new income tax bill, which somewhere got lost in the entire noise that was created around the Waqf Amendment Bill that was presented in Parliament.
All right. Thank you so much, Anil, for joining us and bringing us the latest on the Parliament proceedings. A global environmental organization, Earthy Green Foundation, was organizing Climate Conference 2025 in New Delhi on Thursday. The conference focused on topics including India's journey towards green and sustainable future. Addressing the gathering, India's Union Minister of State for Jal Shakti, Raj Bhushan Chaudhary, emphasized on the urgent need to save water.
दुनिया का लगभग 18% आबादी देश भारत में निवास करता है और जल की बात करें हम तो only 4% ऑफ सेफ ड्रिंकिंग वाटर हमारे पास है। अगर दुनिया की बात करें तो दुनिया में 98.8% जो वाटर है उसको हम यूज ही नहीं करते, वो मेरे लिए इनएसेसेबल है। ओनली मेरे पास 1.2% दुनिया का जो पानी है उसको वो मेरे लिए एसेसेबल है, चाहे वो पॉन्ड्स में हो, रिवर्स में हो, या जो ग्राउंड वाटर जिसको हम एक्सट्रैक्ट करके यूज कर सकते हैं। इसलिए जल के क्षेत्र में भी हम लोगों को काफ़ी सजग होने की आवश्यकता है। नहीं तो आने वाले दिनों में, जैसे कि हमारे श्रद्धेय अटल जी ने कभी कहा था कि अगर तीसरा कोई विश्व युद्ध होगा तो जल के लिए होगा, लेकिन अभी हमारे देश के यशस्वी प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी का जो प्रयास है कि अगर दुनिया में तीसरा विश्व युद्ध जल के लिए हुआ भी तो हम इतना जल पर काम कर चुके होंगे कि भारत देश पर उसका बुरा इम्पैक्ट नहीं पड़ेगा।
In the third episode of Pariksha Pe Charcha, artificial intelligence took center stage in shaping smarter learning strategies. The third session of Pariksha Pe Charcha concluded with the finance expert Radhika Gupta underscoring how AI can play a transformative role in shaping the future, especially in teaching, and how the correct usage of AI for demonstration can allow to analyze complex topics and provide insights that would otherwise be difficult to comprehend for the students.
टीचर का रोल है टू प्रोवाइड विजडम, टू प्रोवाइड एक्सपीरियंस। जैसे एक इंग्लिश टीचर अगर वो डेमोन्स्ट्रेट करना चाहती है कि भाई अच्छी चीज़ कैसे लिखनी है, तो वो एआई के ज़रिए 2-3 अच्छी चीज़ें क्लासरूम में डेमोन्स्ट्रेट करके दिखा सकती है। अगर एक टीचर आपको सिखाना चाहे कि एनालिसिस कैसे करना है, फॉर इंस्टेंस अगर 2 कंट्रीज़ का वॉर है तो वो कह सकती है प्रॉम्प्ट डाल के कि इस सिचुएशन को आप इस कंट्री के पर्सपेक्टिव से दिखाइए, इस कंट्री के पर्सपेक्टिव से दिखाइए। ये एआई का एक बहुत अच्छा यूज है क्लासरूम में एनालिसिस दिखाने का।
Now, tech influencer Gaurav Chaudhary, also known as Technical Guruji, also shared various strategies to help students reduce exam stress through technology, one of which includes using tech tools to create to-do lists.
देखो, स्ट्रेस टू बिगिन विद होना ही नहीं चाहिए,
और यही अप्रोच के साथ में हमारे पीएम सर ने ये कॉन्सेप्ट शुरू किया परीक्षा पे चर्चा का, जहाँ पे वो आप सबके साथ में कनेक्ट कर पाएँ और जो एक हवा होता है, थोड़ा डर होता है, उसको थोड़ा दूर भगा पाएँ। उसके अलावा एक चीज़ जो अक्सर हम चाहते हैं कि हम एक टाइम टेबल ज़रूर बनाते हैं। तो टेक्नोलॉजी की मदद से आप अपनी टू डू लिस्ट क्रिएट कर सकते हैं और अपनी प्रोग्रेस को ट्रैक कर सकते हैं। और तीसरा जो है मैं थोड़ा लाइट रखूंगा वो ये कि टेक्नोलॉजी से आप थोड़ा सा एंटरटेनमेंट भी ले सकते हैं।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi extended his best wishes on World Radio Day. Sharing on X, he wrote, and I quote him here, "Happy World Radio Day. Radio has been a timeless lifeline for several people, informing, inspiring and connecting people. From news and culture to music and storytelling, it is a powerful medium that celebrates creativity. I compliment all those associated with the world of radio." Unquote. And he also said, I also invite you all to share your ideas and inputs for this month's Mann Ki Baat that will take place on the 23rd. Unquote. Now, February the 13th marks as World Radio Day every year to celebrate radio as a powerful medium of communication, education and entertainment. This day also implies the significance of radio, acknowledging its role in connecting the people, spreading awareness and fostering communication globally. Here's more.
February 13 is celebrated as the World Radio Day every year. But did you know why is this day celebrated and what's the story behind it? Let's find out in this video. World Radio Day was proclaimed by the UNESCO General Conference at its 36th session in 2011 and adopted by the 67th session of the United Nations General Assembly in 2012. The date decided to celebrate World Radio Day was February 13, which is the anniversary of the creation of United Nations Radio in 1946. Now let's find out what is the aim of World Radio Day. World Radio Day is an opportunity to celebrate radio as a medium. It is a chance to promote international cooperation between radio broadcasters, to encourage major networks and local radio stations, to foster access to information and freedom of expression. Now let's dive into the history of radio in India. Broadcasting in India began about 13 years before All India Radio came into existence. In June 1923, the Radio Club of Bombay made the first ever broadcast in the country. Thereafter, the Calcutta Radio Club was set up 5 months later. The Indian Broadcasting Company came into being on July 23, 1927, but it faced liquidation in less than 3 years. In April 1930, the Indian Broadcasting Service commenced its operations on an experimental basis, and in the following month, Akashvani Mysore, a private radio station, was set up. On June 8, 1936, the Indian State Broadcasting Service became All India Radio. When India attained independence, there were 6 radio stations in India at Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, Madras, Tiruchirappalli and Lucknow. In 1956, the name Akashvani was adopted for the national broadcaster, and in 1957, the Vividh Bharati service was launched with popular film music as its main component. Moving on to PM Narendra Modi's Connect on Radio through Mann Ki Baat. PM Modi has been connecting with the nation through All India Radio's popular program Mann Ki Baat, which was started on 3rd October 2014. It is broadcast on the last Sunday of every month at 11 AM on the entire AIR and Doordarshan network. The 30-minute program completed its 100 episodes on 30th April 2023. Former US President Barack Obama had participated in Mann Ki Baat in 2015. And it is the only program in the world where the head of the government interacts with the people directly.
Now, let's now get you all the latest from National Games, which is one day left for the 38th National Games. To conclude, the competition has been fierce. Services continue to dominate the medal tally with 65 gold medals, 24 silver and 25 bronze medals, taking their total medal tally to 114, whereas Maharashtra is in second position with 50 gold, 62 silver and 63 bronze medals. On the sidelines of the National Games in Uttarakhand, Hockey India's Secretary General Bholanath Singh expressed confidence in India's growing dominance in hockey. In an exclusive interaction with DD India correspondent Narayan Singh, he hailed India as the powerhouse of world hockey. Take a listen.
Haridwar hosted the hockey tournament during the National Games, and right now I am joined by the Secretary General of the Hockey India, Bholanath Singh ji. Sir, a very warm welcome. Haridwar is hosting the hockey tournament for the national games, and first time Uttarakhand is hosting the national games. So overall, how you look this experience that Uttarakhand is hosting the games first time?
First time Uttarakhand hosting this in 38th national game. It's a good arrangement, good everything, good ground, good play. Everything is fantastic.
How you look overall the Indian hockey right now?
देखिए मेरा पूरा टारगेट है कि जो पुराना समय था इंडियन हॉकी का बैक टू बैक गोल्ड, वो दिन बहुत जल्द आए और बस उसी का एक झलक आप लोग को देखने को मिल रहा है। हमारे खिलाड़ी में वो क्षमता है, उस लेवल पर अब हमारे खिलाड़ी लोग आ गए हैं कि बहुत जल्द आपको बैक टू बैक जिस जगह से ब्राउन देखने को मिल रहा है उसी बैक टू बैक ओलंपिक में वर्ल्ड में गोल्ड भी देखने को मिलेगा।
So Hockey India hosted the hockey events like Women's Asian Championship in Rajgir, also the Hockey India League we saw in Rourkela also. So are you planning to bring more hockey centers in the country?
देखिए अभी हम लोग का हॉकी इंडिया लीग खत्म हुआ है, एक शानदार तरीके से हम लोग आयोजन कराए, जैसा हम लोग को उम्मीद था उससे कहीं अच्छा हुआ। वुमेन्स एशियन चैंपियन ट्रॉफी राजगीर में आयोजन किए। अभी राजगीर में हीरो एशिया कप का आयोजन हम लोग मेन का करने जा रहे हैं, जिसमें पाकिस्तान इंडिया सभी टीमें आ रही है। सारे अच्छे आयोजन जितने भी हैं अभी इंडिया को मिल रहे हैं और इंडिया उसको करा रहा है। और इसके लिए मैं सभी जो भी गवर्नमेंट हैं वो सभी को मैं धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूं कि हॉकी को इतना लाइक कर रहे हैं और हॉकी को अपने राज्य में कराने के लिए सभी लोग तैयार हैं, उत्सुक हैं और बहुत जल्द आपको और नए राज्यों में इंटरनेशनल आयोजन हॉकी को देखने को मिलेगा।
The way India is going back to the glorious days, we are hoping days are not far when India will again at the top of the world hockey. With camera person Manmohan Narayan Singh, DD India, Dehradun.
Before we close, it's now time to bring you some amazing visuals as a new museum of laughter in Croatian capital Zagreb offered to put people through the spinner to wash away the negativity of modern life. The founder, Andrea Kulupic, has introduced the place with the objective called Heal People with Laughter. And that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download it right now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Deepika, and from all of us here in New Delhi, thank you so much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.